Hi, everyone. It's Jessie, and I'm here to help you learn how to network in a way more effective way. Now, first, there's a big difference between networking, let's say on Zoom, versus networking in real life. So I'm going to cover both of those. But if you have the ability to network in person, it is easier. It's a bigger pain in the butt because you have to get up, you have to go to the thing, talk to the people live. It can be more of a time suck, but if you have a choice as to whether you're going to go to the same networking event and let's say they're going to have a Zoom version and an in-person version, if there's any way to go to the in-person version, that still takes precedent and it's going to be much, much easier in terms of the effectiveness of the networking. But let's cover both. First, let me go ahead and back up a little bit and we'll talk about networking via Zoom. This can be a little bit difficult because people in the little chat, they'll say,
Oh, I'm Jesse. I'm from Los Angeles and here's my LinkedIn.
there's no incentive to really connect with that person. And if you're the one doing it, there's no real incentive to connect with you. So you want to give people an incentive. And how do you do that? Well, as people are talking, because usually if you're going to these networking events, it usually is hosted by somebody or some company, and they are talking about a topic or two or three. Usually as they're talking, you'll see that some people have questions in the chat. If you have a meaningful response or if you can be helpful, then draft an answer and put that in the chat. People want to connect. Let's just be real for a second. Nobody really cares about connecting with other people just for the sake of doing it. People are thinking about themselves. There's nothing really wrong with that. You're thinking about yourself, which is why you're watching this video, and that's completely fine. But you have to understand that other people are thinking about themselves. So you have to play to that and understand that if you can show that you are bringing value and meaning and that you can help solve at least a wee part of their problem they're having or question that they're having during this networking event, then you're going to catch the attention, not just of that person, but of other people who are also in the chat. Then you throw up your LinkedIn, you give an invitation. Okay, well, yeah, and then here's been my experience when I've been dealing with that problem. I hope this helps. Maybe we can connect on LinkedIn. Other people are going to be seeing that and they're going to see that you're a helpful person. And so that's how you start to make those connections. I don't recommend replying directly to that person unless there's some sort of really good reason to do that. When you reply, make sure that you're replying to everyone, because sometimes your default setting will be to reply to everybody. Sometimes your default setting will be to reply to just the hosts. So make sure that when you're replying to everyone again, unless there's a really good reason not to. With that out of the way, let's talk about how to network in person. This can be such a difficult topic. And I know that there are a bunch of introverts out there. You do not have to be extroverted to do this successfully. I promise you. I promise you. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert. Okay. I'm like hosting a podcast vlog. Fine. But I really am an introvert. What really separates the introverts from the extroverts is energy. When you are spending your time in a room full of people, when you're having to navigate social situations, does that suck energy out of you or does it give you energy? For extroverts, they tend to get energy from those situations. And for introverts, they are exhausted by the time that event is over. So for me, I'm giving a lot of energy. It takes an awful lot for me to do this. If you're an introvert, I feel your pain and there is a way for you. Remember what I just said earlier about how people are thinking about themselves? You can ask people questions about themselves. A lot of times, if they have spent their time talking about themselves to you, they remember you favorably, even if you didn't really contribute too much to the conversation at all. That doesn't matter. So make sure you ask people about themselves. But how do you approach people to begin with? That can be tricky, especially if you're an introvert. Well, you can start with cliche, a little bit awkward, maybe sometimes forced questions. You can do that. Like, so what brings you to the conference? I mean, that just is so painful. I hate this stuff so much, but it's got to be done. Or if that question will seem a bit redundant or stupid, you can say, are you in town or did you have to travel? It's going to be one of the two. Then that's just to get your foot in the door. The next questions can be about them. Where do you work? Or how long have you been in your career? Or, did you go to school for this? Or have you been just doing this for a thousand years? Like, really, it could be anything. Make a list of questions. But my all-time favorite tip for networking is to start talking about anything other than the conference related stuff. So what I used to do, and this worked like a charm, I got more business cards doing this than doing anything else. And business cards from like powerful people. And that is, I wanted to talk not about the conference. I was so bored to death about talking about the conference. And I honestly didn't give a freaking crap about why they were at the conference. And I didn't want to have to pretend like I cared about that. But what I did like talking about were dogs and chocolate. Dogs and chocolate, I swear. Because, and I'm not saying copy me and like just talk about dogs and chocolate, because then, like, let's say at some point this video goes viral and then all of a sudden everybody's talking about dogs and chocolate. That's going to be dumb. The point is, I wanted to talk about things that I was genuinely passionate about. I can talk all day long about dogs and chocolate. And those are things that are fairly universal. Most people like dogs and most people like chocolate. So we could have something in common that I could genuinely get excited about. So for you, this could be about a whole bunch of things. It could be like, your kids. Not everybody else has kids though, so it might not be as universal, but a lot of people have kids. It could be about wine. It could be about travel. A lot of people like to travel. If you're jacked and you can tell somebody else is jacked, it could be about lifting weights, but just try not to get all creepy and cringy on the person that you're talking to. So that can be a little bit of a difficult space to navigate, but you know what I'm saying? Try to pick something that's fairly benign, so it's not going to get you in too much trouble, but that you are genuinely passionate about, that you believe that somebody else could be genuinely passionate about, that is not such a forced topic, the topic of the conference or the networking event. So I call that my little dogs and chocolate tip. The last thing that I want to say about networking, you're not networking to ask for a job. Do not make this fundamental mistake. A lot of people will go and they'll try to find the biggest, baddest person they can find to schmooze with the right person, with the right connections, and they want to be able to ask for a job. That's not why you're networking. You are networking to get the very next step in the relationship going. Connecting on LinkedIn, that's getting an email address, it's something like that. And if you get that email address or the LinkedIn connection going, then that's fantastic. You want to send them a message right away, like that night or no later than the next day. I think it's important to do it that same day, so that way you're fresh in their mind, because otherwise the conference is going to come and go and neither one of you are going to remember anything about it. You're not going to remember who you met or whatever. And if you're talking about something like dogs and chocolate, you can reference that in your message. And it's not going to be like, oh, hi, I'm the person that talked to you about your career and why you did that thing that you did with your career. Everybody's going to do that. You're not going to be special or rememberable, at all. If you talk about something that is notable, that is interesting, and that you're passionate about and that they're passionate about, that has nothing to do with the conference, you will stick out in their mind, but you can't let that fade. You need to act on it right away. Send a message and say, I just really appreciated your time. It was lovely meeting you and getting to know you. I'm the person who talked about dogs and chocolate, and I really appreciate the ability to connect. I hope you don't mind if I ask you any follow-up questions over the next couple weeks if something comes up and if I need a little bit of help. If you say something like that, you're letting them know that you're going to be contacting them in the future and you're not asking for a ton of time. You're telling them that you're not going to be a total mooch. You're not going to be an energy vampire and you're not going to drain them. You're not going to be a burden on them. You're just saying, if I need a little bit of help, if I need a little bit of advice here and there, I hope I can reach out to you. That is a nice way to stay connected, and chances are they're going to say yes. Most people will say yes if you do that. And it's not saying that these connections can't end up with you getting a job offer from that person, but that it usually takes a long time. It's certainly not going to happen the night you meet. It's not going to happen even the first couple of times that you're talking. But over time, if they see that you're passionate or they see all this stuff, they might offer you something, or they might let you know if they know of somebody who is hiring for whatever it is that you're looking for. And there's that saying, if you ask for money, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get money. And same for jobs. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you ask for a job, you're going to get advice. If you ask for advice, you might get a job, whether it's through them or someone else. Most people want to help others, and that's the whole point. I hope that you have found this to be helpful. If so, like, subscribe, comment, do all the things. Help this channel out. It really does help us out. It helps us grow and to help other people just like you. If you ask a question, I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can and might make a video about it. Until then, ciao.